Ladies and gentlemen, we will now start with the conferral of the honorary doctorate of the Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam on Karen Armstrong. I would like to invite Karen Armstrong and Professor Manuela Kalsky, who has been appointed honorary supervisor by the College of Deans, to follow the beadle to the stage. I would also like to invite Vice Rector Professor Edward Schillebeeckx-leerstoel to join us on the stage. The British scholar of religion, Karen Armstrong, is being awarded an honorary doctorate in theology and religious studies for her exceptional merits in promoting interfaith dialogue and religious tolerance in the public domain, grounded in scholarly research. The investiture will now be performed by Professor Manuela Kalsky. Vice Rector Professor Edward Schillebeeckx-leerstoel will arrange the kappa. Manuela.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the regulations of Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam, and as honorary supervisor appointed thereto by the College of Deans, I hereby confer on you, Karen Armstrong, the degree Doctor Honoris Causa, together with all rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereto appertaining. In witness thereof, the grand seal of the university and signatures of the rector, the secretary of the College of Deans, and the honorary supervisor have been affixed to the diploma you are about to receive.
May I request Professor Kalsky to pronounce the laudato.
Highly esteemed audience, it is a great honor and pleasure to give you a glimpse of the achievements of our new honorary doctor at Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. She is one of the most brilliant, creative and thought-provoking researchers in the field of religions in our time, the British scholar of religion Karen Armstrong. Religion and religions matter, not only in the global south, but also in strongly secularized societies. Modernization has not necessarily led to the decline of religions, but rather to the pluralization of worldviews and value systems, and to sometimes violent clashes between them. How to deal with this diversity on a local and global scale? How to handle fears and tensions and build bridges between people of different religious and non-religious worldviews? These are among the most pertinent questions for societies today. As a scholar of religion, Karen Armstrong has made a remarkable contribution in finding answers to these urgent questions. She has not only done this on a theoretical, scholarly level, but she is also the founder of the Charter for Compassion, a worldwide movement for peace and mutual understanding. Her scholarly comparative work on world religions, especially on the monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, is widely known, respected, and awarded. Some of her books have been translated into 45 languages. Among them, her magnum opus from 1994, A History of God, the 4,000-year quest of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In this book, she traces the history of how God has been perceived and experienced by men and women from the time of Abraham until the present. Personal lived experience and scholarly insights complement each other effortlessly, making her books a delight to read. Since 9/11, she has become known chiefly for her work on Islam and religious extremism. In 1991, she had already published a biography of the Prophet Muhammad. This was in response to the fatwa that Ayatollah Khomeini issued against Salman Rushdie in 1989. Everyone in the street has an opinion about the Prophet Muhammad, but what did people really know about him? What did Armstrong herself know about him? Her books about the Prophet Muhammad and later on the history of Islam were based on her passion for gaining more scholarly knowledge about Islam and a compassionate willingness to put herself in the shoes of the adherents of other religions. Her nuanced and differentiated view on Islam and her ability to sharply distinguish prejudices from facts did not go unnoticed. In 2007, she was awarded a medal by the Egyptian government under the auspices of the prestigious Al-Azhar Madrasa for her great achievements in the field of Islam. She was the first foreigner to have been awarded this honor. Worldwide, Armstrong's advice in matters pertaining to Islam is highly appreciated. She has attended expert meetings of policymakers of the US government and participated in the World Economic Forum assemblies in New York, Jordan, and Davos. In 2005, she was appointed by the then Secretary General Kofi Annan to take part in the United Nations initiative Alliances of Civilizations, whose task was to offer practical guidelines to member states about how to stem the rising tide of extremism. Today, Armstrong is the UN ambassador for this alliance. In 2008, Karen Armstrong won the TED Prize. With it came the obligation to give practical shape to what the TED organization described as her wish for a better world. As a result, she created the Charter for Compassion, which was written in consultation with leading thinkers and activists in Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. The purpose of the Charter is to restore the ethic of compassion, summed up in what is known as the Golden Rule: treat others as you wish to be treated yourself, to the center of religious and political, private and public life. The Charter is primarily a call to action in our polarized world, concluding, rooted in a principled determination to transcend selfishness, compassion can break down political, dogmatic, ideological, and religious boundaries. Born of our deep interdependence, compassion is essential to human relationships and to a fulfilled humanity. It is the path to enlightenment and indispensable to the creation of a just economy and a peaceful global community. The Charter was launched on the 12th of November 2009 in 60 different locations throughout the world. It was enshrined in synagogues, mosques, temples, and churches, as well as secular institutions such as the Sydney Opera House. Meanwhile, more than 2 million people have signed the Charter for Compassion, and the chief focus of the Charter at present is the Cities campaign. In over 40 cities around the world, citizens have collected thousands of signatures, requesting their mayors to endorse and implement the Charter realistically, practically, and creatively in their own town. In her excellent scholarly work on religion, Karen Armstrong has the same distinctive approach to knowledge as Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. Open-minded towards different worldviews and dedicated to the well-being of people and society. What matters is not just the acquisition of a greater depth of knowledge, but also a wider scope of knowledge. To look further than your own interests and your own field of research, further than what is familiar and further than the here and now. Doing research with passion and compassion means to dethrone oneself from the center of one's world and to put the needs and the well-being of the entire community in center space, treating each other with respect and care. Just like 500 years ago, during the storms of the Reformation, theologians today are facing the question of which aspects of our religious traditions will be future-proof and fit to guide us in times of crisis. In its review of religious and philosophical traditions and the promotion of compassionate communities in society with the aid of interreligious dialogue, the Faculty of Theology feels connected with and inspired to address the challenges presented by Karen Armstrong's research and her Charter for Compassion.
Dr. Armstrong, on behalf of the College of Deans, the Executive Board, and the entire academic community of our university, I congratulate you upon your honorary degree. We are proud to add your name to our gallery of honorary doctors. Dr. Armstrong, may I now invite you to address the audience.
Oh, thank you, yes. Thank you all. This is a huge honor for me and a delight because I failed my PhD at Oxford. And so it's especially gratifying to get this. And at that time, I wanted nothing whatever to do with religion ever again. So beware what you wish for. We are, however, living in difficult, troubled, frightening times. And this was the kind of context that inspired all the great scholars and thinkers and sages, Confucius, the authors of the Upanishads, the authors of the Mahabharata, Hillel, Jesus, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to utter the golden rule. Never treat others as you would not wish to be treated yourself. And they insisted that this, and not a doctrine or a particular religious practice, was the essence of spirituality and of true faith. And they also insisted that you could not confine your compassion or your benevolence to your own group. You had to have what one Chinese sage said, yan ai, concern for everybody. Love your enemies, said Jesus. Never treat others as you would not wish to be treated yourself. That's the golden rule. It requires you to look into your own heart, discover what gives you pain, and then refuse under any circumstance whatsoever to inflict that pain on anybody else. And Confucius said, you do it all day and every day. We have a habit in England of saying when we've done something nice for someone, well, that's my good deed for the day, as though you could then return for the next 23 hours to your usual selfishness and spite and greed. But I was inspired chiefly to ask this for the Charter, for the TED Award Prize, because of a great fear and a great dread. We're living in a time of denial. We've just heard about the climate change and this massive, massive, dangerous denial. But there's also massive denial in the sphere of not just interfaith relations, but intercultural relations. Brexit, at a time when we are more globally interconnected than ever before and cannot do without one another. Our economies are interdependent. We all face the same problem with the climate change. And we all face the possibility of nuclear catastrophe. And yet we're still retreating into nationalistic ghettos. And we're not learning the lessons of the past. It doesn't seem so long ago to me that we were cheering when the Berlin Wall came down. And recently we've seen people cheering when they hear of walls being built between Mexico and the United States. This is massively dangerous. We simply cannot afford it. What we're seeing, it seems to me, is a fear of globalization, a fear of being one with the rest of the world. We want to retain our specialness. And we're seeing a kind of plague of nationalism. In my view, one of the bad ideas of the 19th century. And quite soon after the inception of the nation state, the British historian Lord Acton made a chilling prediction. He said that the problem with the nation state, with its emphasis on ethnicity, culture, and language, meant that people who did not fit the national profile could become endangered. In some cases, he said, with chilling accuracy, they would either be enslaved or exterminated. And we saw, it wasn't very long after that, that the Young Turks, atheistic Young Turks, in order to create a purely Turkic state, massacred over 1 million Armenians. And then we had the Nazi Holocaust, a typical example of the inability to accept, embrace cultural minorities. And at the end of the 1990s, after the Salman Rushdie crisis, gave me a real fear that we had learned nothing since the 1930s. Because when I heard the way the British intellectuals, in the defense of Rushdie, quite rightly to defend him, said that Islam was an evil, bloodthirsty religion. I thought it was this kind of talk that made the Holocaust possible. And at the end of that decade, there were concentration camps again on the outskirts of Europe, and this time with Muslims in them. So compassion, we've made the words so soft and soppy and full of kumbaya, but it's not just a nice idea. It is an urgent global imperative. And it's not enough for us to make our own city or our own community compassionate. We now have to have yan ai and reach out across the world, which is why I'm proud that the best of our compassionate cities, it was done by an outside analysis, is way ahead. It's Karachi in Pakistan. And I think just as climate change is absolutely essential for our survival, the news from Korea just this week is reminding us of our imperative to reach out in respect and realize the contributions that we have made to the present day. If the British Empire had behaved according to the golden rule in its colonies, we wouldn't be having so many problems today. So I would like to say on that happy note, but it is a happy note for me here. It's wonderful to be with you. The Netherlands has always been extremely kind to me, and this is a most wonderful day for me, and I want to thank you all. Thank you.